Well, good morning again from NASA's Johnson Space Center here in Houston. I'm Josh Byerly, and I am pleased to be joined by the crew who will fly this one-year expedition on board the International Space Station. Here in Houston with me is astronaut Scott Kelly, and joining us from Moscow is Russian cosmonaut Mikhail Kornienko. We will hear from both of these gentlemen here shortly, but for now we're going to go live to the International Space Station where the crew of Expedition 34 is on hand to talk with their fellow astronauts and cosmonauts. So crew, how do you hear me?
We have you loud and clear. Josh, how do you hear us on board ISS?
We hear you 5 by 5 as well. So Kevin, you and your crew go ahead and take it away.
All right. Well, hey, it's good to have Scott and Misha out there talking about what's upcoming for them. I know they're very excited about it. We're here in the Destiny Lab this morning, and soon to be their home, away from home for an entire year. It's really a great opportunity for NASA and the Roscosmos to see what living in space will be like for an entire year. When I arrived on board, I talked to Olga Yevgeny and said, "You never know when we're going home. You know, it could be shorter than we planned. It could be longer than we planned. So you should just kind of mentally be prepared for a long one." Of course, it's a very challenging thing to do. Make no bones about it. For them to stay for an entire year will be very tough, but I know they're both volunteers to do it, and they're going to have a great time up here. The exercise equipment is now fantastic, and the ground support is great in all aspects of the flight, so I'm sure they're going to have a great time. I'll let my Russian crewmates say a few words as well.
Scott, Misha, здравствуйте.
Scott, Misha, hello. I'm happy to congratulate you. Presently, you are probably the most experienced and distinguished people who were selected for this flight. Somebody had to begin. I wish you success, all the very best. I wish you luck, and also the nominal operation of all systems and equipment so that the preparation also goes very smoothly for you. Good luck, guys.
Misha, Scott,
Misha, Scott, I'm proud that I know you. Misha, you're the best. And we are the air troops are proud of you. I talked to them some time ago. They know that you are flying to stay on the station for a year. And there is a joke that you are the founding father of the new type of air troops.
On the ground has any questions, anything that they want us to polish up or get ready for them for the big one-year expedition? Go ahead.
Kevin, I don't have any questions. I appreciate your kind words of encouragement and congratulations. This is also an opportunity for me to say, talk to Misha for the first time in a long time and say that, you know, I really look forward to flying in space with him again, or flying in space with him. I trained alongside him when I was a backup crew for a previous expedition, so we know each other pretty well, and I look forward to spending a year in space. For the crew on orbit, again, thank you, and for Kevin, I know you're looking forward to the Notre Dame BCS game, so you have that to look forward to, and I am certainly looking forward to spending some more time on the International Space Station.
Well, thanks a lot, Scott. And I know I talked to you a lot before I came up here, and I know how much you enjoyed it up here. A lot of your advice was great for me. So I know you have the right frame of mind, and both you and Misha have what it takes to come up here and spend an entire year. Congratulations.
Are we off the line? Guys, if you hear me, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for all your words.
Okay, I think that's going to wrap it up. We want to thank the crew on board the International Space Station for their time. We're about to lose communications with the space station in about a minute. So we're going to go back to Scott now and get his thoughts on the upcoming one-year expedition. Then we'll hear from Mr. Kornienko, and then we'll take questions.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be here with you this morning. I look forward to talking a little bit about this upcoming experience, which I think will be very interesting and valuable for NASA, but also personally. It's an honor to be chosen for this flight. There are many people in the astronaut office that are both willing and capable, just as capable as I am, to do this flight. And because of some, variety of circumstances that Bob Benkin talked about earlier, we kind of came up with a kind of a short list, and for some reasons that aren't quite clear to everyone, I'm sitting here talking to you today, which is a privilege that I do not take lightly. I also want to point out, people have referred to this as a long duration ISS mission. And I want to clear something up, that 6 months is a long duration mission. 6 months is a very long time. If you think back what you were doing 6 months ago, it might be hard for you to remember. Certainly a year is longer. So this is a longer duration mission. Between now and March of 2015, we have 10 other long duration flights that are very challenging, and there is much to learn, much to accomplish on those flights. For instance, in next March, we're going to launch the first crew on a rendezvous that docks with the space station on the day of launch. So that's something we've never done before. There's also a whole host of experiments that builds on what we've learned previously, and will set the stage for spending a year for Misha and I on the International Space Station. So the data we learn on those flights and the data we learn on the 1 year flight will hopefully set the stage for sending humans beyond low Earth orbit someday, and one day onto Mars. And with that, I look forward to perhaps Misha's comments and answering your questions. Thank you.
Okay, let's go now to Moscow and hear from Mr. Kornienko.
First of all, I'm very glad to see Scott. We worked together. I know him as a very highly trained professional and just a very good man and a person. I am happy to have him as a companion for a year. Scott, in a day I will be in Houston. I was deferred here, due to this press conference. So I think lots of very good words have already been said. I don't want to waste your time. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to take questions starting here in Houston, then we'll go down to the Kennedy Space Center, and then we'll go to the phone lines. So let's start off with Mr. Perot here.
Hey, thank you, Mark Perot for Aviation Week. And certainly you touched on this, but maybe you could elaborate a little more on your sort of personal and professional motivations for wanting to do this now that the opportunity is there. It sounds to me like you were not drafted to do this. You were eligible to do it, and you're all in. And I just want to make sure I sort of understand if that's correct.
Well, I'm a big believer in what the space station was designed for, and what we're doing up there. Like the program manager Mike Suffredini said earlier, having this space station, this valuable facility that we built, is able for us to demonstrate, technologies in the systems and how they're operated and how we operate them for a long time, as well as the human element that will someday help us go beyond low Earth orbit again and onto Mars. So I'm a believer in what the program is doing, and I'm a believer in the remaining years that we have the space station of expanding the envelope of what we've done previously. On a personal level, I look forward to the challenge. I've flown a 6-month flight on the International Space Station already, and I was willing to do that again. I wanted to do it again, but more than doubling that time will make it even more of a challenge. And I recognize it's not going to be easy to spend a year in that kind of isolated environment, but it's something that I think I'm up for that challenge, and certainly at this point I look forward to.
Okay, Kevin.
Scott, Kevin Quinn from KTRK here in Houston. Talk some about that challenge personally for you. What is your greatest concern spending a year up there?
My greatest concern, I think, is just missing the people, your loved ones, your family, your friends that on a personal level that you're attached to on the ground, and then life on the space station is also pretty routine. In the morning you wake up, you're at work. When you go to sleep, you're also at work. So imagine being in your office for a whole year and you never get to leave. That is a challenge, and it presents its own set of issues. But I think I'm up for it, and I look forward to it.
Jim.
Good morning. I'm Jim Oberg with NBC. Scott, how many would you compare this kind of flight to your carrier deployments? How long were you away from home when you were a carrier pilot? And does that suggest to you perhaps that people with Navy experience, with deployment experience, have a better idea of timing themselves for long away from home expeditions?
Well, my only deployment that I went on as a carrier aviator was about 6 months long. I think what's important for a flight like this to the space station is that it's somebody who recognizes what it's like to have flown a previous long duration flight of 6 months or around that period of time, just to know how best that they will mitigate the potential psychological issues that you can have for even a longer duration. I'm glad you brought up the military folks and folks that serve, in service to our country for long periods of time, and in some cases even longer. I mean, there are many soldiers and airmen and sailors that serve, and Marines, and the people that support them that serve much longer than a year in places like Iraq, Afghanistan, and other deployments. And I really appreciate their service. And I recognize, in some cases what I'm doing, pales in comparison to their sacrifice.
Okay. We're going to go to the Kennedy Space Center now for questions from there.
Hi, this is Marcia Dunn, Associated Press. Scott, I'd like to know the reaction of your two daughters and your brother and your sister-in-law when they found out that you were considering this and actually got picked.
Yeah, they were all very supportive. As far as like a specific reaction, the only one that comes to mind is my 9-year-old daughter. When I told her on the phone that I was going to spend a year on the space station, she screamed out, "Awesome."
Scott, good morning. It's Peter King with CBS Radio News. And, listening to what your crewmate said a few moments ago, he talked about you as being a good professional and a good man. I don't know how well you guys really know each other or how closely you worked together in the past in training, but, I'd love for you to tell us a couple of things that you like or admire about Misha.
Yeah, Misha is very professional, but he's also a very, very likable guy. I know him best from spending about 10 days in quarantine with him in Baikonur in Kazakhstan when I was Tracy Caldwell's backup for her flight. Misha was one of Tracy's crew members. So I've known him, over the last 10 or 15 years, just working with him on occasion, but then spending 10 days with him, having every meal with him, spending time socially with him for about 10 days prior to his last flight.
And a follow-up to that, and with apologies to David Bowie, but you guys are spending a long time in a tin can, if you will, a very large one, obviously. How important is it not just to be the best professionals that you can be, but how important is it in a long-duration flight for crew members to be close friends, maybe even becoming best friends over the duration of the training and the actual mission?
You know, the crew dynamic aspect and how well you get along is very important. Unlike a shuttle flight, though, a lot of those in the space station training, just the way the space station flow is designed with training in different countries all around the world, different schedules, generally your ability to bond as a crew doesn't occur until you get on orbit. You know, in most cases that goes well. In some cases there are interpersonal issues. I think, fortunately for Misha and I, we know each other. We've spent time together. We get along fine, and I think our working relationship and our personal relationship is strong and is very suitable to spending a year in space together.
Hi, it's Bill Harwood, CBS News, with two quick ones. One quick question. Do you know if something happens that prevents you from flying this mission, is the plan to have backups that could go up for the full year, or would that derail this if something like that happened? Then I got a quick follow-up.
Yeah, the plan is to have a backup crew that would step in if something happened to Misha and I. Likewise, we're the backup crew to the previous expedition, so you know, there's also the possibility that we might have to fill in for one of the previous, the previous flight, the previous 6-month flight, in which case we then wouldn't be eligible for the year-long flight, and our backup would have to serve in that capacity.
Yeah, Scott, kind of a philosophical question. You know, I walk at the gym every day for an hour, and I have a little timer that tells me when I'm halfway done, you know, and sometimes you go like, oh my gosh, I'm only halfway done. And I was thinking about you. You've been there 6 months, and that's halfway. I mean, when you think about that, I'm just wondering how tough that is. I mean, I realize you hadn't done it, so you don't know, but you have been there for 6 months. It just seems like a pretty daunting task to those of us on the ground. Thanks.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, it's definitely a challenge. You know, I think in a lot of ways it'll be similar to those challenges that people do that's kind of considered type 2 fun. You know, it's fun when you're done with it, not while you're doing it. And you know, like climbing Mount Everest or something like that. Not the type of fun you have riding a roller coaster. So I think in a lot of ways it'll be like that. I hope, I suspect, you know, there's that. You know, when you have like a third left of something of a certain duration, you know, in the case of a 6-month flight, maybe 2 months left. In a case of a 12-month flight, maybe, you know, about 3 or 4 months left is when, you know, that fatigue level that people generally see will be building up. So hopefully, you know, I suspect I won't see that after 6 months. I'll kind of see that towards the end. Hopefully not at all.
Okay, I think that's it from the Kennedy Space Center. Let's go to Moscow and take questions from there.
Mikhail Borisovich, a question to you. From your biography, it is known that you climbed Kilimanjaro, if I'm not mistaken. So what is this flight for you? Is it another level? So what is connected with this flight? And the question to Scott Kelly, can you name your backup crew member? Okay, about Kilimanjaro, one of the very experienced mountain climbers said that you cannot climb it and conquer it. It can let you in and can let you out. So I was let in and was let out. As for the flight, I think it's a unique opportunity for me and for us. Of course, before only 4 Russian cosmonauts did that. And it's an opportunity to participate in the scientific research program that is planned for this flight, and it cannot be done during the 6 months flight. I am a professional, it's my job. And of course, I am very eager to do this. Although, of course, I understand it won't be very easy. It's not, I am not giving price to myself, but it's just really so.
Answer your question about the backup, NASA has not decided on a backup crew member, and we're going to do that along the same kind of schedule we've done with all the previous flights, and that would be in about 4 to 5 months from now.
Can I ask a question? Yes. Dmitry Sukovitsyn, Interfax. Mikhail Borisovich, you said that you will participate in experiments that are planned for the year-long expedition. There is another expedition going up to the ISS, so they will have to perform 37 Russian experiments and 130 on the American science flight program. So do you think that by your flight you will have enough science experiments and they won't be just repetitions of the old ones, the ones that were done on Salyut and Mir, but they were current ones? Of course, right now we even cannot find enough experiments for a 6-month flight for the Russian segment. When I flew, we had 48 Russian experiments, so it fluctuates. As for the repetition of the Mir experiment, some part of experiments actually will repeat the ones that were on Mir, but they are the experiments that need some statistical data. That's why they are repeated. As for my flight, I'm sure that our scientific institutions, IBMP and other institutes, of course, will prepare the scientific research program for this flight. Any other questions? No more questions? RIA Novosti again. Mikhail Boris, do you know your backup crew member? Yes, of course. Sergei Volkov is my backup crew member. Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay, let's go to the phone lines and begin taking questions from there. Is Stephanie Pappas from space.com there?
Hi there. Sorry, I was muted. I have a question for both. This is Stephanie Pappas from space.com. And I would like to know, obviously you'll be busier and busier as you prepare for this mission. I'm wondering if you have plans to spend extra time with your friends and family prior, if you're able to sort of build up that time before you're isolated up on the ISS.
Well, that's a good question. I hope I have that opportunity. I haven't started training yet. They're still building my training template. So yeah, I certainly would if I could, and I hope to have more time to spend with friends and family before going on such a long flight.
Okay, let's go to Mr. Kornienko and see if he has a response to that. The question was, are you going to try to spend some extra time with your friends and family before you launch on this one-year crew?
Well, as I will try to spend as much time as my preparation, as my training will allow me. In a day, I will go to Houston. I will be there for 6 months. Then in summer, another stage of the training will start. Of course, there won't much time to spend, with my family. Unfortunately, I would love to have more, but I will try to find some time.
Okay, how about Lisa Rose, Star Ledger?
Hi, I just have a question. I basically wanted to see what people are planning to pack, in terms of there are limitations in terms of how much you can pack to go up for a year. And also, are there like personal items that you're planning to pack in order to kind of, achieve some normalcy and connect with the people back home while you're up there?
Well, Lisa, as far as like your clothing and food and those type of items, those are all provided for you by the government. Certainly the amount of clothes you have is much less than you would use on Earth. You don't have the capability to wash them, so they're disposed after a specific amount of time. But as far as personal items, you get a little bag that's about this big, and you can basically, within a certain set of rules and requirements, take what you want in that size of a suitcase.
Okay, Robert Perlman, collectspace.com.
Hi. From a logistics standpoint of working with the rotating crew members that you'll be up there with, are you Scott and Mikhail, are you viewing yourselves as your own expedition, or are you rotating with them into different expeditions increments as they pass? And will either of you be serving as commander during any of your time on board?
Yeah, Robert, so the way I look at it, and I think the way Misha will look at it, as well as Roscosmos and NASA, is that, we're all part of one crew. And during our time on orbit, we'll be basically part of 6 crews, 2 different Soyuz crews and 4 different ISS increments. No different than anybody else who flies on the International Space Station. Crew cohesion and our ability to work together and respond together as a team is one of the, if not the most important thing that we need to be prepared to do and be trained for. As far as will either of us be the commander, I will be the commander of the space station for the second 2 of the 4 increments that I'll be a part of. So then Misha and I will be a part of. So and that'll be the second, basically the second 6 months of our year-long stay.
Scott has already answered this question. He is a very experienced astronaut. I wouldn't prioritize the fact of being a commander. Of course, the crew is one team, and we depend on each other. And I don't think we should divide anything, so all politics is left behind or below. So when we were together, we were very friendly to each other, and I think we will be also very good to each other and friendly during our year-long expedition. Of course, the people I'm flying with are just wonderful.
Okay, how about Peter Spots with Christian Science Monitor?
Well, thank you very much. I was interested in what in thinking about the sort of the psychological approach to this longer mission. I wonder if there are any examples you might give of kind of lessons learned in how you coped during a 6 month that you might try something different on this time around.
Yeah, we have a whole team here at NASA that deals with what's called behavioral health and performance on board the space station, and they help us with things that we do in our spare time, basically to stay connected with friends and family on Earth via video conferences, and providing you with entertainment, whether it's newspapers or magazines or books or movies, music, those type of things. So, from my perspective, on my first long duration flight of 6 months, I didn't put a whole lot of thought into that. And now, having spent that amount of time already in space, I'll put more thought into it. Just little things about it that you can certainly tweak. For instance, you run on the treadmill for 30 minutes, and generally when I would run on the treadmill, I'd watch some television shows that normally are 30 minutes long, but when you cut out all the commercials, they're no longer 30 minutes. And so after about 20 minutes, I'd have to get on the computer and restart something else. So putting more thought into making sure I have something that is the duration of, the time I'm on the treadmill might seem like a minor thing, but over a year-long period, just adds to your quality of life and your ability to be entertained for such a long period. So I'll just put more thought into those type of things.
Okay. Eben Brown with Fox News Radio. Eben, are you there? Okay. Let's go to Rebecca Boyle with Air and Space Magazine.
Hi, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Sorry, I don't know if this is working. I hope you guys can hear me.
We can hear you.
Just wanted to kind of get a sense of what you're going to do to stay connected with your friends and family when you're up there. I guess this is sort of a little bit repetitive, but are you going to have any longer of these personal conferences that you normally get each week? Are there going to be separate kinds of discussions that you're going to be able to have because of the extra length of time you're spending up there?
Well, if it was up to me, I would keep it the same as my last flight, and I think it will be up to me. I mean, the once a week video conference with my loved ones on Earth, and the ability to occasionally have a video conference with friends, I think for me personally will work well for me, similar to what I did last time. We also have a telephone on board. It's kind of like calling on a Skype type phone that is very, very helpful from a psychological standpoint, where basically about 45 minutes every hour you can call anyone you want to, assuming they're going to answer the phone, and speak to them, as well as having email capability. So I think between putting a little bit more thought into this whole BHP, what we call it, the behavioral health and performance stuff, than I did last time, and we got a great group of people working with us in that area. I think I'll be pretty well situated for spending a year on the space station.
Okay, that wraps up the calls on the phone lines. We have a couple of follow-ups in Moscow and also at the Kennedy Space Center. So let's go to Moscow first.
Good evening, Yulia. I have a question for Mikhail Borisovich. Could you please tell us about the preparation for the flight in detail? If you mean physical exercises, we do it every day in GCTC. They have a very good gym. They are repairing right now. There is a swimming pool there. There is all kind of training devices that we are provided with. So physical exercises, of course, is done practically every day. I will go to NASA very soon. They also have a very good gym, and I will also use their swimming pool. So this is the foundation of the physical status, so to say, that we need to maintain. Any other questions?
Okay, let's go down to the Kennedy Space Center and take some follow-ups from there.
Hi, this is James Dean from Florida Today. Scott, your extended family has been through so much in the last couple of years, including a time when you were up in orbit. And I'm wondering if you felt like that experience gave you more confidence or NASA more confidence that you might be able to handle whatever might come up during a year-long stay.
Well, I can't speak for anyone at NASA, but for me, it was a pretty significant event when my sister-in-law was shot, along with all those other folks that were killed, and there's certainly nothing good comes out of anything like this. But as a result, I do know that I do know how I respond to something along those lines. So I don't know if it's helpful, but if something, God forbid, something tragic was to occur, I kind of know how I react. But all situations are different, and I think past performance doesn't necessarily predict how I would necessarily be in the future.
Thanks. And we've heard a lot previously about the benefit of collecting the biomedical data that will add to our what we've collected from the 6-month missions. But it sounds like you really are thinking much more in terms of the psychological challenges rather than the physical aspects. Is that true, or are there any things physically that you think might be difficult?
Well, there's a host of physical issues that are going to be investigated, and like Julie Robinson, the program scientist, mentioned, we're still coming up with the suite of experiments that will be performed. But certainly, I look forward to participating in those. I look forward to helping us learn more about those issues of vision and bone loss and immune function. Certainly, the radiation effects, all those types of things, are equally, maybe perhaps more important than the psychological aspect of spending a year in space. I guess the only reason I was focusing on the psychological part is that's more personal, more subjective versus quantitative data.
Scott, it's Peter King with CBS Radio News again, and following up on James's question about physical issues, one of the things we heard earlier from Julie and from the Russian side as well was talk about the vision and cranial issues that apparently have affected some of the space station crew members coming back. I'm wondering, number one, did you feel any ill effects from your previous space station flight? And number two, how concerned are you at putting yourself at risk for possible further damage in those two specific areas?
Vision on the long flight wasn't much different than my experience on my previous two flights. A little bit of a shift in my vision that then corrected pretty soon post-flight back to where I was before the mission. So personally, I don't have a concern, but it will be interesting to see from a scientific standpoint whether there is a difference between what I experienced on the 6-month flight compared to a year.
Hello, this is Marcia Dunn of the Associated Press, and could I ask Mr. Kornienko a question, please? Mr. Kornienko, I'm wondering, did you have any hesitation in accepting the challenge of a 1-year mission, and what did your family have to say about it all?
Well, I had some doubts. Of course, a year is a serious time, but they were not for long. And actually, it was my initiative. And my wife, of course, she started to cry. That was her reaction.
Okay, that is it from the Kennedy Space Center. Let's see if there's any follow-ups here in Houston. Mr. Oberg?
Yeah, a follow-up for Mr. Kornienko. I'd like to ask him how long he wants to spend talking with the Russians who have been a year in space to get their advice and their insights into his own preparation, his own psychological preparation. And also, would he please identify for us the medals on his jacket, the 2 medals?
Я обязательно посоветуюсь.
Of course, I will talk to them. I will take their advice for sure. It's an absolutely priceless experience. Of course, I have 6 months experience on board the station. I'm more or less ready, I think. But of course, every person is individual and individually perceives the flight. So I will try to sum up their experiences, and it will be very useful. It will be easier for me, to spend this year on the station, because it is a priceless experience, of course. So that's it.
Okay. You want to ask again?
Just I asked him to identify the medals on his jacket.
Okay. He's asking if he can identify the medals on his jacket.
Я также хотел бы задать вам вопрос по поводу тех орденов и медалей, которые прикреплены к вашему бюджету. Могли бы вы объяснить, что это такое, что это означает?
Звезда Героя Российской Федерации.
Okay, so this is the star of the hero of the Russian Federation, and this is the badge of the member of the Russian Cosmonaut Corps. In Kremlin, President awarded these medals. So Sasha Skvortsov and me received those awards on the 12th of April. We were in the Kremlin when we celebrated anniversary of the Russian 50th anniversary of the Gagarin flight to space. So these are my medals and badges that I have on my jacket.
Okay. Kevin.
Kevin Quinn again from ABC 13 here in Houston. Could you describe in more detail, please, the changes in your vision post-flight last time? Was it blurred vision? Was it a difference in depth perception, peripheral vision? And how long it took that vision to return to normal?
Yeah, so I think it was, on the order of like a diopter shift. I don't even know which way. And then, pretty soon after, I was back to what my baseline was, within several weeks. I don't remember exactly the details.
Okay, Mark.
Yes, Mark Carreau for Aviation Week. I'm wondering, and I think I understand this, but throughout the year that you're on the station, will you be eligible for spacewalks, track and capture, all the usual maintenance overhead that goes on, or are you blocked off from doing that as far as you know at some point in your stay?
No, absolutely. You're equal part of every one of those 4 crews. So, the same way we determine, using the same criteria, we determine who does the track and capture or who does the spacewalks will be, likewise used for the year-long crew members.
Okay, that is it. We're going to wrap it up. We want to thank, obviously, Scott and Misha for participating today. Thanks to all the media who attended as well. Of course, if you would like to read more about the expedition, especially as these 2 crew members begin their training in the early part of next year, always log on to the NASA website at www.nasa.gov/station. We want to thank you again.